This is the plaintiff, John Plavnicki. He says he did some mechanical work on the defendant's car, plowed her driveway after a snowstorm, and she now refuses to pay him for his services. Just because the plaintiff's son doesn't like him, it doesn't give her the right to take advantage of him by not paying him. He has no other choice but to sue for the $623.41 he's owed. This is the defendant, not a Cernick. She says she's known the plaintiff for a very long time, and after her husband passed away, he showed up demanding money for work he did on her late husband's car. It doesn't make sense her husband would owe him anything, because he always paid in cash at the end of every other job the plaintiff did for him, and he paid it right away. She's accused of not taking anyone's word for it.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff did a bunch of work for the defendant, says he got stiffed, mostly because the defendant's son doesn't like him. But the defendant says the plaintiff is a scammer who tried to say her deceased husband had owed him money. It's the case of you're dead to me.
Okay, Mr. Plavnicki, you are suing Mrs. Cernick for $623.41 that you say she owes you for different jobs that you did for her husband, and according to you, her husband never paid. Now, your husband is deceased, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long ago?
2011 in January.
Okay, so about a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep my voice up. All right, so what's going on?
In July of 2010, Mr. Cernick contacted me that his van could not be inspected for pollution because the odometer did not work. And it was not unusual that he called me because over the 25 years that I've known him, without exaggeration, I've done over 100 jobs for him in that time. So I said to bring it over and I'll see what I can do with
according to you, you were good friends with him.
That's correct.
Okay, go on.
And I told him to bring the van over and I would see what I can do about repairing it. He did bring it over, and he said that while it was there, he wanted me to replace the tailpipe on the van and change the air cleaner. And I said, I'll take care of it. Well,
this is all when? July of 2010?
First week in July of 2010.
Okay.
Then I repaired the tailpipe and the air cleaner, and the speedometer, I changed what's called a speed sensor, and it did not fix the problem, and I told Mr. Cernick that, and that the dashboard would have to come out and be repaired, the speedometer and the dashboard. So I priced it with the Ford people, and they told me it would be about $300 to have it repaired, and they couldn't replace it because it was obsolete and they couldn't get a new one. I tried to buy a used one in a junkyard, but they only used that speedometer in that one-year van, and it was very rare, and I couldn't find a used one. I told Mr. Cernick this, and he said to get it repaired. I took it to Park City Ford in Bridgeport, and a week later they called me that they had it. I went and picked it up, and I started to put it in, but before I could finish the job, I ran into a bit of a problem, or rather a problem ran into me. A car T-boned me on my motorcycle.
Oh my goodness.
Broke my leg, broke 6 ribs in multiple places, broken clavicle, broken shoulder, and a collapsed lung. Okay. I was hospitalized in critical condition in intensive care for 3 days, and then I was transferred to a nursing home.
For how long?
I was in 2 different nursing homes for 3 months.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. You started to say something. I want to make sure I'm following what you're saying. You said, I brought it back in before I could work on it. I thought you said that you had taken it somewhere to be worked on.
I took it to the Park City Ford to rebuild the odometer. They rebuilt it, and I picked it up.
Oh, you just took the odometer to them.
I took the whole thing out and gave it to them.
And gave the thing,
That's
not
right.
the car, the
That's
thing
right.
to them.
I gave a part,
and then,
and
so the last
fixed
piece was that you were going to put it into the car.
That's correct.
And then what happened?
But I didn't have a chance to do that.
Because you got into your accident.
I got in the accident.
Okay. And during that time, where's the van?
In my yard.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Cernick called me in the nursing home, and asked me if there was anything I can do so he can get his van back. Obviously, I was in no shape to do anything. And but I did know a friend of mine, a mechanic friend nearby, that I called, and he agreed to try to fix Mr. Cernik's van for me and finish it. He did come and finish it. I called Mr. Cernik back and told him that the van was completed and that he could pick it up. I didn't learn this until a couple of weeks later, when a quirk of fate, Mr. Cernik wound up in the second nursing home that I was in, right across the hall from my room.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Talk about fate.
All right.
Anyway, while he was in the nursing home, I went to visit him quite frequently, and he informed me that the van did pass the pollution test and everything was okay.
Okay. Why are you suing 2 years later for this amount? Why didn't you collect from him then?
During this time, I've had 7 major operations on my leg, and the fact that he had died.
You forgot to bill? Well, he didn't die until January, right? May I ask you, sir?
Sir.
I'm sorry, stand up for me, will you?
Right.
You are, I take it, the son?
I'm the son.
Okay. All right. He passed away in January?
January 18th, 2011.
Okay. Stay with me a moment. All right. So that was...
I didn't get out of the nursing homes until end of October.
Okay. And then you have, I mean, I assume, I mean, you're able to visit people and talk. You can write a bill and you can, I mean, you have a...
It was pretty tough to get around. I was wearing an external...
Okay, so for 6 months you don't bill him. And then he passes away in January. And then for all this time you don't bill anybody. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, you remember that somebody owes you money from 2 years ago?
It wasn't that I just remembered. I had 7 major operations on my leg in that time frame, and I wasn't really too able to worry about a billing. I did go to see Mrs. Cernik in the spring of this year, and I told her about the outstanding bill, and she said she'd have to talk to her son about it, and she'd get back to me.
Okay.
Weeks went by, she never got back to me. I went there a second time, and her son happened to be mowing the grass there that day, and she called him in, and he confronted me, and very irate, he said, "Get out of the house immediately. He's going to call the police, and he ain't paying me a nickel."
The plaintiff did a bunch of work for the defendant until he almost died in a motorcycle accident. Things got really sidetracked, and now there's an issue. The plaintiff says the defendant's husband, who died, owed him for work, and he waited 2 years to press the claim. Let's listen.
Okay, talk to me.
Real simple. 2 months before he allegedly performed work on my dead father's car. And for the life of me, I don't know how my father could have driven that car to his house or picked it up afterwards, because he was completely incapacitated. Mentally, he could not drive out of the driveway without my mother being with him. Physically, he could not drive that entire year.
How old was he?
He was 84 years old. He was in resting homes and hospitals for 9 months out of the 12 months in 2010. But let me get to the point here. In May of that particular year, okay, I had heard that my father had asked this man here to cut down his neighbor's tree. I called him up on the phone. I said, "John, you're a good friend of my father's." I said, "Please don't do this. My father is suffering from dementia. There's absolutely nothing wrong with his neighbor's tree. The only reason he wants to cut it down."
He has no right to cut your the neighbor's tree down.
Excuse me?
Your father has no right to declare to
The neighbor had no problem with it, because the neighbor was going to get
the neighbor was probably delighted.
The neighbor was going to get half the tree. So at that point, I said, if you
What do you mean, though? I don't understand what you mean, who's going to get half the tree?
John was going to cut down a giant oak tree,
right,
the value of which, if it's cut up, is worth thousands of dollars.
Oh, the wood, the firewood.
The wood, absolutely.
So your father tells him, "Cut down this tree, I'll pay you." And then the neighbor doesn't mind because they're going to get firewood. And who else is getting firewood? He's getting firewood?
He's getting
paid.
He's getting the other half of the firewood, and my father paid him $650. And I told him explicitly on the telephone, "John, do not do this. You are taking advantage of a man who's suffering from dementia. I beg you not to do this." I told John, if you showed up at my father's house that day that you're going to cut the tree down, I'm going to call the cops. He says, "You go ahead and call the cops." So guess what? I stayed out of it because my father got involved, and he said, "Listen, John's going to cut the tree down. I don't care what you say."
Right.
So this man didn't respect my wishes, okay? Reasonable wishes to stay out of the way and to stop trying to do this. So it goes on from there. He pays for the tree. All along, he has always paid John in cash. My mother will attest to that, and so will John, okay? So now you have a situation where I'm still trying to figure out why I'm in front of you 2 years later. If my father had a debt, he paid it. If there was work done on that car, I'm sure it was paid. And the saddest thing about this is that from the time that this man told me to stay away and don't get involved in that tree cutting, episode in May until September or October of that year, I was estranged from both of my parents because it upset me so much of what my father did. What
Why?
my father did. He chose this man over me.
No, well, that's where you're wrong. Bob, listen to me. Because I am in your shoes right now. I have a 90-year-old father, about to be 90, and a mother who's about to be 87. All right? He didn't choose that stranger over you. He chose independence. And it's really hard when you got to take the car away, then you got to think about everybody's safety, but you're trying to do the right thing and respect your elders. And, you're trying to walk that fine line between independence and decision making. There's just this whole complicated set of events. If you spent that time estranged, shame on you and shame on them. But that he cannot possibly be a factor, and that should never have been. And mercifully, that resolved itself before he passed away, and then you would have great regrets. Okay? You're a good son. Mrs. Cernick, did your husband pay his bills right away?
Right away.
And in cash?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember this stuff, like about the odometer and all that? Or you don't really?
No, I don't remember many things.
Okay. Can I just ask you about the whole tree thing? When the son gets involved and says to you, I would really rather you not do this. I feel like, you're taking advantage and blah, blah, blah. Why was your position to go forward with it? You just felt it wasn't his right?
Okay. Can anybody here tell me motorcycles are safe? I just need to hear it from somebody as to why. Are they relatively safe? Anybody? What do you think?
No, not at all. I don't think so.
You're nodding too?
Oh, no way. No.
Anybody here ever have a motorcycle?
No.
I have one.
You have one now?
I do.
Are they safe?
It's a scooter. Not really.
Oh, but you have one.
Of course. I've had it since I was 16. It was my first vehicle.
Ever in an accident?
Yes.
Bad?
No, not bad at all. But
Okay. I just think they're so unsafe. Going inside the courtroom.
Mr. Cernick wanted me to cut these 2 trees down because he planned on building a garage on his property, and he was worried that once a garage is built, there's no place to drop these huge trees. He talked with his neighbor about taking these trees down. The neighbor.
Did you feel that Mr. Cernick was competent at the time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I told Mr. Cernick that his son had called me and threatened to have me arrested if I showed up the next day.
And if when in relation to the car, when were the trees?
Oh, there was quite some time before that.
Okay. You are basically saying that the deceased Mr. Cernick owes you money.
Yes.
On what legal theory are you going to make his wife pay his debt? Assuming there is a debt.
Yes.
Let's assume for the purposes of this discussion that there is a debt, that you never got paid for that. Why would it be her responsibility to pay his bill?
Because she inherited his estate.
Well, you're not suing his estate, are you? You're suing her personally.
I was told I had to sue her, not the estate.
Well, you were misinformed, number one. But why would any judge look at a situation where someone has now been deceased for almost 2 years and say, oh, yeah, I'm sure that's a legitimate debt with all this time that has passed? You had months of money. I was in a big, serious car. I understand that. People get injured, and then you apparently had 2 months that you were uninjured and free from the nursing home situation, and still no bill was presented on somebody who purported was a good friend of yours. What do you suppose your good friend of 25 years who gave you over 100 jobs is thinking right now that you drag his widow into court to sue her over something that is 2 years old?
I didn't really want to sue.
Oh, yeah, you did.
No,
you know how I know you did? 'Cause you did. Okay?
I really wanted to sue the son, but I can't.
Well, you can't sue the son, and you can't sue the wife just because she's the wife. Neither one of them need to pay you verdict for the defendants.
Hold on, right there, both sides, please. So the judge's verdict takes care of that old debt, if there was a debt, is no longer. Why do you want to sue the son so badly?
Well, he's the one that is regulating all the finances. Mr. Cernick told me that he cleaned out his bank account, and that's why he had to wait quite some time to get a Social Security check to pay me for the tree job that he was talking about.
Mm-hmm. So you have it in for the son?
I don't really have it in for him, but he was the one I really should have sued, but I can't sue him because she is his wife, and I was told that I had to sue her.
You were wrong. All right, head right down that way. And let's see what the defendants have to say about this. So come on in here, and Mr. Cernick, step on in here. And so what's your feeling about the judge's ruling here?
Oh, it's fine.
He seems to have something against you.
He has something against me. That's his problem. But karma, he's got to live with this karma. And he had a motorcycle accident 3 days or about a month or two after he cut down a neighbor's tree against his son's wishes. Mm-hmm. And God works in strange ways, and he's working in strange ways today as well.
Well, does this put this all to bed for you now?
As far as we're concerned, because until 2 or 3 months ago, we never thought we owed anybody any money. I mean, this is a broadside for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's go to Harvey.
Okay, even if the wife is the sole beneficiary, what he has to do is file a claim, a creditor's claim with the estate. That is the only way to deal with situations like this. They will toss you out of court if you don't go through probate court. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.